This is my completely stock Nissan GTR and it does a quarter mile in
12.2 seconds.
That was so slow.
And now I have 7 days to turn this GTR into a 10-second car.
10-second car.
10-second car. I said a 10-second car, not a 10-minute car.
Even supercars and some hypercars struggle to get the quarter mile time under 11 seconds. And now I've got to carry out a series of modifications, engines out, and fixes.
It's oil. It's oil.
To bring down the quarter mile time of my Nissan GTR that I've just rebuilt. And I've only got 7 days to do it. So I can't actually launch the car at the minute. To launch it, I've got to turn the ESC off. And when I hold this down, it does nothing because we still have an ABS fault on the dashboard as well. And that's to do with some kind of coding issue. So not only have we got to fix that, we've also got to make it faster because the launch control isn't going to buy us 2 seconds. It maybe buy us 0.2 of a second. No matter what we did on that day, we couldn't get the quarter mile under 12 seconds. Come on! And that's all it's got. I think that's all it's got. So we're consistently doing around 12.2. There's no improving that.
I think we're going to need some more power.
Everything here from Litchfield should give us the ingredients to make a 10-second car, hopefully. So, we need more power. We need more noise. We need more air and we need more fuel. Litchfield have told us with these parts and to fit them, we've got to take the engine out.
Oh, you're having a
We didn't tell him.
But literally, we've known that for weeks. And we didn't tell you.
So the engine's got to come out to fit these parts. 3 days. We've got 3 days to have this engine out, modified, put back in and rolling. Yeah? No problem. So, we've got to get the engine out, which is something we've never done before on this GTR. Next step, exhaust. First step is to remove this old haggard exhaust so we can access the prop shaft underneath it and disconnect it from the gearbox to the engine. And to get to the exhaust, we need to remove the rear diffuser first. Wow. Down it comes. Who did all this? Now we can see the back box and I can access the bolts which hold them in.
Guess what I'm doing, Matthew?
What are you doing, Anthony?
Favourite job.
Cutting.
Cutting that other bolt off.
Some of the bolts were so rusty that they just needed cutting off, which gave us a perfect opportunity to prank our second cameraman, Toby. He doesn't have too much mechanical knowledge. Because we don't want this, we need the spots, we don't want it to go everywhere. So just see where they go, where do they go? Just do a little one so he knows where they're going. Yeah, okay.
I'll do it the other way so that they'll come down here.
Yeah, you go this side.
This is so rogue, isn't it?
Wait,
Ready?
What's about? Wait,
No,
what is about to happen?
Get it in the bucket.
Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Make sure this gets stay in the bucket.
What are you trying? Why am I doing this?
What an idiot!
I think you did a really good job there, but not many escaped that bucket.
Okay, enough messing around. Let's get this exhaust off. I'm undoing the bolts which hold the hangers of the exhaust to the car, and then we can lower it down.
Yeah!
Once we've got the back half of the exhaust out the way, I can work my way at getting off the front side of the exhaust as well. Easy enough done. Now we can access the prop shaft. And there's 2 on this GTR. The gearbox sits at the back of the engine. So there's one prop shaft which sends the drive from the engine to the rear diff, and another prop for the front wheels, which sends power from the back of the gearbox to the front differential, I believe. Both of these have got to be disconnected to allow the engine to come down without the gearbox attached to it. There's 4 bolts holding in one, and then we can slide that out of the way. Then there's 4 bolts holding in the other one, and we can separate the other one from the middle as well, which is what I'm doing now. And that's both of them out of the way. Then we spotted some coolant lines running to the back of the gearbox.
Oh, look, it's going to
the gearbox. Is that going to be a problem with lowering it down?
Only if you leave it connected.
So there's another thing we need to disconnect. The coolant feed and the coolant return pipe to what seems to be a gearbox cooler. And once we've disconnected them, we can leave that coolant to drain out. And whilst we was underneath the car, we thought it was the best time to disconnect the steering column from the steering rack using this one single pinch bolt. And that is all done underneath. Next step, we're going to take the bumper off so we can access all the coolant hoses and oil at the front of the car. This front bumper and this front splitter is one huge piece which sort of works its way underneath the car. So we undo the bolts from underneath, then a couple bolts each side into the wing, a few clips on top, and then we can pull the bumper out of the way. Bumper is off. We can just see the charge cooler in there, and we will be replacing that. Now we've got to disconnect all the wiring, get all the fluids out, and drop the engine out. Let's go. It's time for the GTR's V6 engine to be removed. First things first, let's disconnect the battery. Something we probably should have done earlier. But whilst my dad's doing that, I'm disconnecting the induction pipes. Hey! The goal here is just to disconnect everything which is connected to the engine, which will be staying on the car. And these air boxes will be removed and definitely replaced to get some more power. But we'll get on to that. Now, it's time for the coolant hoses to come off. So the whole engine loom, all the wiring, runs around the top of the engine, through the bulkhead, down along, down the battery, and then the ECU for the engine is underneath here. So we've got to take off a lot of this dash to get to all of the engine wiring loom. We're disconnecting the wiring harness from the engine's computer because this is a way quicker way than disconnecting all the electrical plugs of everything electrical in the engine bay. But to get to the engine ECU, I've got to strip half of the passenger side interior apart because it's hidden just behind the glove box. Right, there is the engine ECU, just here in this casing. So all the plugs are here. So I think if we disconnect this, and then we should be able to pull it through into the engine bay. But there's a lot of disconnecting we've got to do. You can see here all the plugs which go into the engine ECU, and a few extras as well. And once I've disconnected all of them, I can slide the wiring around the back of it and push it through the bulkhead at the top here. And on the other side, my dad's going to be pulling it out. Now all I've got to do is make sure that all of that wiring is clear and can come out with the engine. So we're just pulling it off any clips that it might be attached to. Then we're going back underneath the car to disconnect some more stuff. There's an oil cooler! Turns out there's an oil cooler at the front of the car for the engine oil. So we've got to disconnect the feed pipe and the return pipe to that, which look pretty rusty. But with a bit of WD-40, we got the thing loose and we got both the pipes out of the way. And a lot of the oil drained as well. Okay, now all of this, including the brake and everything, is all going to come down with the engine. But this wishbone at the top is going to stay on. So that means we need to undo this def bolt and separate it from the one another. Luckily, this pinch bolt was nice and easy to remove. Yeah. Oh! Now the wheel hub, the suspension strut and the brake calipers can all come down with the engine. But anything electrical won't. Like this ABS sensor, we don't want to be breaking that. There's just a 10mm holding it in and then we can wiggle it out of the wheel hub. And once that's removed, the only thing holding it in now is the bolts on the bottom subframe, which is next up. I'm loosening off all 6 bolts which hold it in place and leaving them on the last little bit of the threads. That way, when we lower the engine down, we can rest the subframe on some axle stands. And once it's nice and secure, we can undo the top mount bolts of the suspension and then finally go back to those subframe bolts and take them completely out. And the whole engine and suspension should sit nicely onto those axle stands. Up it goes. And that was job done for day 2. Right, our goal is to get more power. Best way to get more power on a turboed car is to increase the size of the turbos. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We have got not 1, but 2 uprated turbochargers. Look at them, bad boys. Most of you will know how this works, but let me try and explain it for people that don't. On an engine with a turbocharger, when the exhaust gas is released, it passes through the hot side of the turbo, spinning the propeller inside of it. And as the propeller is spinning on the inside of it, it's also spinning the cold side of the turbo, which is compressing cold air into the inlet side of the engine, naturally giving you more power, because the more air we have going into the engine, the more fuel we do too. So we get a bigger explosion, which in turn gives us more power. So naturally, if we increase the size of the turbo on the engine, we should be increasing the amount of air that gets pushed into it, giving us more power, which is what we want. Now that I've removed the heat shield, I can access the bolts which hold the manifold and the turbo to the side of the engine. But first I'm removing off the induction pipe which is attached to the cold side of the turbo, and now I'm going to start undoing the bolts on the manifold to the engine block. And my dad's doing the exact same on the other side. Anything that spins fast on an engine is going to get hot. And to cool this turbo down, it has coolant flowing through it. So of course it's going to have a coolant feed pipe and a coolant return one, which is what I'm unscrewing now. As well as coolant, it's going to need lubricating. So it also has an oil feed pipe and an oil return pipe. I've got to remove all of these pipes before I can pull the turbo away from the engine. Yeah! And once I had, me and my dad can both pull them away, leaving us with a bare engine.
If you look in there, look at that one.
Oh yeah, it's huge compared to the other one. Old versus new.
Build that up. I've got to build this one up. Transfer these pipes onto that.
All those coolant and oil pipes are now being transferred off the stock turbo onto the bigger turbo. I'm pretty sure these are just hybrid turbos, which use the same housing as the original turbos, but have bigger internals. So this should just fit in the standard position, and we shouldn't need to make any modifications to fit them. Now I'm lining up mine on the left hand side, being careful to put everything back where it was, but pay special attention to this oil feed pipe. It takes oil from the back of the engine using a banjo bolt. And it was pretty difficult to install. So much so I got my dad to tighten it up because I didn't think it felt right. And if it goes wrong, well, we can blame him. After that was tight, I can then start bolting up the manifold to the engine. And then start connecting up all the coolant lines to the turbo. And that is 2 turbos fitted to the GTR engine. Okay, we now have more air going into the engine because we have bigger turbos. But there's only so much fuel we can put in to mix with the air ratio. So now we have got bigger injectors. The job for these is to inject fuel into the engine. And these ones have got bigger at the end. So now we can put more fuel in to mix with the more air that's going in. Only issue, fitting these is a fairly big job. They're right down there. So, let's get fitting on. So now with the bigger turbos on the car, we're going to be introducing more air into the combustion chamber. So to get the fuel ratio right, we need to upgrade the injectors which inject the fuel into the engine as well, which is exactly what we're doing now. To get to the injectors, we've got to first take off the engine cover, then we can access the inlet manifold. On this engine, I believe the air-fuel mixture is mixed before it enters the combustion chamber. And it's like that on a lot of performance engines. I think they refer to this as port injection rather than direct injection. Now that we've got the inlet manifold off, we can start unbolting the fuel rail. And attached to the fuel rail are the injectors. And on each injector, there's an electrical connection. Because of course, they're electronically controlled. Fuel rail out by the ECU and told when to inject the fuel. Now the fuel rail's out, we've got direct access to the injectors, and we've just got to wedge these out of the port. There's 6 cylinders, so there's 6 fuel injectors to remove. Look how much bigger that is. Oh my days. Wow. Apparently, all of these modifications that we're doing, just enough to do without building and reinforcing the whole of the engine, doing forge internals. So this is the maximum performance this engine can take before it goes pop.
What about the gearbox?
Gearbox, we don't know. Before the injectors go back in, we don't want to damage the seals, so we're putting a little bit of lubricant around them and then they just push into place. We need to be 100% sure that they do go into place though, because any leaky injector could cause a fire. We don't want fuel spurting around the engine bay. But with all 6 in and the inlet manifold back in place, successful job. More fuel added, more air added. Now, to get rid of that more fuel and more air, our standard exhaust is so restrictive. So we need to make sure that the engine can breathe now, like taking a potato out of your mouth when you're trying to run a marathon, innit? Because before it'd be like, potato in your mouth, take your potato out, you can breathe. And that's what we've got a solution for. Welcome the new exhaust. Here's the Litchfield upgraded exhaust. There's less restrictions in it, and it's also wider. It's going to help the engine breathe a lot better. And this is going to be way easier to install whilst we've got the engine out. We've got 2 downpipes, 1 on each side connected to the new turbos. And then we need to install the lambda sensors. 1 closer to the turbo, and 1 further down the pipe. These sensors tell the computer in the car how well the fuel is burning in the combustion chamber, so it's pretty vital when it comes to tuning. Another thing we want to change are these hoses. Because these hoses are all ribbed, they don't necessarily flow air the best. So we're going to be taking them off and replacing them for nice smooth silicone hoses instead, which is going to be way better for airflow. And what we do on the bottom on the engine, we're going to repeat on the top and on the other side as well. And that's a lot of the inlet hoses upgraded already. Woo! Hoses on, exhaust on, turbo on, injectors on, engine in. Because the engine stayed in the exact same place, we should just be able to lower the car down and it should slide in as easy as that. Once we've got it back into the engine bay, I've just got to go underneath and put the bolts in for the subframe. And once all 6 bolts are in for that, we then should be able to lift the car back up and then the engine is back in to its original spot. With all the upgrades, of course. Engine is in and we are on Thursday, Friday, Saturday today, day 3. To make this engine work better, faster, and to accompany our modifications that we've already done, we of course need an induction kit, bigger air intakes, and along with that induction kit, we also need to cool down that air because cooler air is more power because cooler air is denser, there's more of it going in the engine. So what we think is going to improve it, well what Litchfield know is going to improve it, this is an intercooler down here. And this is what the air passes through before it goes into the engine. So the cooler, we can get that intercooler, and the more air it goes onto that intercooler, the cooler the air is going to be when it goes in. So of course, we're going to make it bigger and better. But to do so, we've got to take it all off first, and then we're going to show you the new one. Let's go. What he said. To access the intercoolers, we've got to remove the crash bar and put the bolts in a safe place. There's a lot of ducting on the front of the car that we need to remove as well, but sure enough, here's both of the intercoolers that we're removing. Naturally, when you compress air, it gets hot. And as I mentioned, hot air isn't really the best for performance. So before it goes back into the inlet manifold, it passes through the intercooler, which cools all the air down. The problem with our intercoolers now is that they might be too small for all of our upgrades. So it's not going to harm us just to replace these 2 old ones for our brand new Litchfield one. We've just got to remove them first.
Hey, 1 out. Number 2.
Here is one side, another side. So this is cooling the turbo on the right hand side, this is cooling turbo on the left. Now, look what we're replacing it with. Whoa, look at that. And to even give you more enjoyment, got my initials on it. Because, do you know why that is? Because I'm super cool.
I see what he did there, because it cools the air, so it's like super cool. MA is super cool.
They call me the Iceman. We think it mounts up here. We've got no instructions. We think this hole, or one of these holes here, mounts up here. So that means we need to cut this part of the plastic shroud out so we can fit it. So that is what that's for. We actually ended up having to take a lot of the plastic off to fit this huge intercooler in place. And it's pretty cool knowing that this intercooler was built in-house at Litchfield, especially for this car. And once we removed all that plastic, it fitted actually really nice. Whoa! Whoa! So now, we've got the intercooler in. We now need to connect the intercooler up with all of the air pipes. So the way this works is we have air is going to get sucked into the engine into this side here. Then it's going to get blown out the turbo down the bottom side, down through into the intercooler, and then eventually up, back, round here, through here, and into the engine. That's the route it's going to take. We just need to now build up a load of pipes and new induction kit to fit that all in. And that's exactly what we've got here. An induction kit from Litchfield. We've just got to figure out where all the pipes route, which all of us are having a go at now. Okay. This hose here, we usually link up with the blow-off valve thing, but I don't really understand blow-off valves that much, but we're blocking it off. So this now is going to go on. Look at that, that looks well funny. It looks like a Diglett, you know, the Pokemon. This hose then caps off the pipe to the blow-off valve. There we go, look, it's Diglett! Yeah! And then we install a new blow-off valve. I'm not too clued up on how these blow-off valves actually work, but I know they just release the excess pressured air, which isn't needed by the engine when you let off the throttle. And they make a cool noise. We've got new ones each side now. And last but not least, the new air filters, which sit next to the intercooler at the front of the car now, which should get some decent airflow. It's important these stay as cool as possible, and ideally as far away from the engine as possible as well, to avoid getting any heat soak. And now they're in their new position, I thought it'd be a good idea to make a few more cuts to the original bumper to let in some more airflow on the aftermarket air filters. And then we can begin to reinstall it all. By tonight, the car has to be done because tomorrow morning it's got to be at Litchfield on the dyno. And we haven't even started it up yet. We haven't even seen if our mods work. But we've got to get it done today. No, there's no question about it. Now me and my dad can put the crash bar back into place now the new intercooler and the induction kit is in place. Then goes in the foam padding. And finally, back on goes the bumper. And the cool thing, you can just see the intercooler peeking through the grille. So cut them out for no reason. It's doing nothing. And now we've made it airflow from a washer bottle. Never mind. The air filters actually sit here behind the grille. Now we have induction kit, intercooler, injectors, turbos. The car's got more power, it needs to breathe more. We've already put the downpipes on. We now need to install the rest of the exhaust, which is bigger and wider. Send it up. Here it is, the new Litchfield exhaust. It's pretty much a back box which runs all the way up to the downpipes. And you can see how much wider the diameters of the pipes are here, as my dad demonstrates. On go the gaskets for the downpipes. I can then slide the next part of the exhaust up to that, and then it uses a V-band clamp to connect the next part of the exhaust onto that. I can then push it onto the hangers. And finally, on goes the back box. And to hold the back box in place, the hangers slide back onto the studs. Then we've just got to tighten everything down. And I was actually really impressed on how this Litchfield exhaust fitted. It was the one exhaust that we haven't had to jig around and move to sit straight or to adjust it from hitting any panels or the underneath of the car. And it even used the stock exhaust tips as well. So from behind it looks completely OEM. Once that's all in place, I can then put back on the rear diffuser, bolt that all up, then position the exhaust tips into place, and that is job done for the exhaust. We move the car down because now we can fill up the coolant, and then of course, because we've had the brake calipers off, we've got to top up the brake fluid and then go around and bleed all the brakes.
What are you doing, Tony?
Pumping the pedal, pumping it up.
We're just going to crack the nipples on each caliper to remove all the air in the braking system. And that's job done. Right, coolant's in it, brake fluid's in it. Our next step is, because we're pushing the boundaries of this car, we want to make sure there's fresh oil in there. Not only in the engine, but also in the gearbox, because the gearbox is slightly ropey, and we know on these cars that they do tend not to be the best and the most reliable things. So what we're going to do first is drain all the oil out of the engine and probably drain all the oil out of the gearbox as well, and then we can start from scratch. Let's go. First off comes the sump plug for the engine. Then we've got to unscrew the oil filter, which is a Nissan oil filter, which is good news. It shows the previous owner may have actually taken care of the car and took it to Nissan for its services. Either that, or it's never had a service ever before. Back in goes the sump plug with a new copper washer, and then back in goes a new Nissan oil filter. Then we can lower the car down to add oil. Okay, oil's out. We need to put the best oil back in. So we've got Valvoline. It is the Valvoline VR1 racing oil. Like my dad says, it doesn't need to be used for racing, but if you kind of over-spec it, then you know your engine is going to get the maximum protection, because this actually is proven protection in extreme conditions, used by racing drivers and all sorts, so it's perfect for our performance engine. The best thing, Valvoline not only do oil, they do loads of additives like coolant and everything like that. We're a Valvoline partner, and we won't partner with them if it was no good. Big up Aston Martin F1 team as well. Good news is that it's got a dipstick, so we can see how much Valvoline oil we're putting in, because this car's actually good and it's got a dipstick. Oh, he's nailed it. I wouldn't choose any other oil but Valvoline to go in my cars now. But I think this VR1 oil is going to be perfect for the GTR. Be sure next time you do an oil change on your car, make sure you use Valvoline oil to fill it up. Do us all a favour. Do your engine a favour as well. It's going to protect it. And you're supporting the best team in the world, Valvoline.
Did you tell your dad to wear the full kit to work today?
Yeah, he's got full team Valvoline, isn't it?
Show us your badge.
Oh,
Team Valvoline.
look at that. I'll be on every Instagram page in the world now.
Okay, next thing that's going to need oil and fluids is the gearbox. And the gearbox on this car is all the way at the back for balance. We want 50-50 weight distribution. This is a finicky gearbox. It's quite old-fashioned and it's quite clunky. The reason why we think it probably had and went to Copart was because of this gearbox. It had a transmission fault. And I will tell you, that transmission fault has been coming back every so often when I've been absolutely giving it some. The next time you start it, it has a problem with the gearbox. So I think a first thing to eliminate anything with issues with the gearbox is just to service it, because they work on solenoids and the solenoids move up and down in the pistons. And if they get a tiny little bit of grit in that solenoid, the solenoid will get stuck, stopping you from selecting any gear that you want to go in. We're going to drop all the oil out and change all the filters, and hopefully this will work, because the time is counting down for us being on the dyno tomorrow, so we're not taking any chances here. Come on. First step is to remove the sump pump, but no oil will come out yet. No! Ready? Ready. Go. Look at that. That's the straw. So the oil inside the gearbox should go to there, and you know when it's full, because then it starts dripping out. We're going to measure the oil that comes out just to make sure that we've drained it all. To get to the filters in this, we're not just going to do an oil change, we're going to change the filters, because you know what I mean. Take off this sump. There's loads of bolts holding the sump on the gearbox. My dad's undoing every single one. Then I can lower it down And we can access the first gearbox filter right at the bottom. Our first filter is this big boy. Once that filter's out the way, we can access another one. I'm not too sure what each one are for, but I can tell this one has probably never been changed. It is filthy. And here's the new one from Nissan. And the funny thing is, these are pretty much the only things you can buy for the gearbox from Nissan. You can't even buy a clutch from there. If you need anything else for your gearbox, new gasket, any internal sensors, all those solenoids I was talking about, then you have to buy a new gearbox. But there are companies which have made solutions for that and have made aftermarket parts. But again, they're not cheap. Right, now, to fill it up, use a fill plug at the back. Really, I should have cracked this fill plug off first, because if this snapped, then I wouldn't have been able to refill it with oil. There we go. So the technique is to fill oil through that until it starts coming out of here, and it's meant to be one drip every second. So one. To get the oil in the back of the gearbox, my dad's using this pump to suck it out of the oil barrel and then push it into the back of the gearbox until the oil comes out of the fill plug. Hey, there it is, it's coming out, guys. Okay, that is going straight in, cross-threaded. Right. Hey, hopefully that fixes our gearbox issue and gives us all the power we need. But we're not done yet! To the top of the car. Right, is it behind here, Matthew?
It is.
Just pull it up.
No, there's a little lever.
Underneath there. There you go.
Is that it?
That's it.
There, look.
Wow. This is the final piece of the puzzle. And hopefully all together it will give us that 10-second quarter mile that we've been hoping for. What I'm trying to access here are the fuel pumps. Now that we've got bigger injectors on, we're going to need some more powerful fuel pumps to push the fuel through those injectors. And the two fuel pumps sit inside the fuel tank. In fact, they sit inside this little mechanism that I'm removing now. Right, so this, I figured out, this is to tell you whether you've got full tank or no full tank. And inside this should be two fuel pumps, we hope. We only know this from watching videos online, because as I mentioned at the start of the video, we've never done this type of work on a GTR ever before. So we're learning as we go along. We've got to split this casing open, and now we can see both the filters and the fuel pumps inside. Yeah. There we go. One old fuel pump. And we're going to be taking out the old one and replacing them with uprated fuel pumps, which allow us to run E85 if we wanted to, providing the car's tuned to do so. The filters fit exactly back in the stock places. Now we've just got to put it all back together. Right, that is in. We've learnt so much today. Fuel pumps, gearboxes. That looks like a boat, look. In it goes. And now it's just a case of pushing it back into the fuel tank and bolting everything back up. And after that, we could put the rear seat back in and it could be finally time to start it. Let's start this thing. 10:25. Tomorrow, we're on the dyno at 9 o'clock in the morning. Less than 12 hours away. We've just done all of those modifications. The chances of this starting without any problems is very, very, very slim. We know that the ECU will not handle this car at the minute because it doesn't know that it's done all the mods. It's going to start up and it's going to be like, what the hell is going on? That's why we need to get the car tuned. But at the minute, we just want to make sure that everything is oil, air, and coolant tight. And I want to hear what it sounds like. I'm starting it. Right, wait. The oil's in there. The correct amount of oil. I didn't check the dipstick. Coolant, gearbox oil. And my back wheels are off the floor. Okay, just in case. Come on! Hey, we're in alright!
Turn it off.
Oh, what?
Look what's underneath the car.
No, it's coming from there.
Oh, what is it?
Oh, no.
You're joking!
Oh,
Oil.
It's oil.
It's oil.
Engine oil.
That's oil.
Engine oil.
Oh, it is engine oil.
Valvoline oil. No. It's protecting the floor. What's that then?
A big one.
That's a turbo pipe, innit? So there's oil coming out.
Oil.
What did I say? I said the transfer is starting without something going wrong. But it's at the back of the engine, which is not good.
Loads of oil. Not just a bit. Look at that.
Oh my god!
Just a small leak.
This is not good. Especially as we have to be on the dyno tomorrow morning. Oh my! Oh no!
Where's it coming from?
At the very, very...
It's everywhere.
I think I can see where it's coming from. It looks like it's coming from that turbo oil feed pipe that I fitted earlier when the engine was out.
Do you think that done it up?
Yeah, it did go up.
Yeah? Enough to stop it leaking?
We'll see in a minute.
I don't think, like, you know the way that was pouring out, that's like, it's not even on. Just to make sure it was that pipe, I was going to get back in the car and start it whilst the guys were underneath looking for the leak.
Got your safety goggles on?
Safety goggles in case they get splattered with oil.
Yeah, moment of truth.
And just as we thought, it was coming from that pipe. But maybe it was just loose, so my dad's trying to get in there now with a spanner just to try and tighten it up an extra few turns. That's tight enough for it not to spurt out like that though.
I don't know.
Okay.
That's got one side.
If this bolt is threaded into the engine, we've only got to take it out again.
We've got, what, 11 hours?
Have you just cranked it tight?
Yeah.
You ready, guys?
Yeah.
How ready are you?
You ready?
Come on! No!
It might be the copper washer, you know.
This was not good. Tightening it didn't work and oil was still coming from it. Now one thing we forgot to do is change the copper washers on the turbo oil feed pipes. So my dad's thinking maybe there's a fault with the copper washer that's on it. So he's trying to get it off now to see if we could put a new one on.
It's not good news because the copper washers look alright, don't they?
So if that was damaged, you think oil could be coming through there?
Yeah, that sits like that. And then the union grips in the middle, but I'd say that was the right washer. Putting in new copper washers. The other ones were new, but these are new ones.
So now my dad is trying to slide in the new copper washer and then Liam offered a helping hand as well.
Come on, Liam, come on. Come on.
So close, go on.
Liam, come on.
Push it,
Come
push
on,
it
Liam.
down. Liam, you're practically on it.
God, God, it's further!
Liam, push it.
Tony's took it off me!
He's robbed it
Oh,
from you.
we're fingering each other! Come on! Come on!
Come on, get it on. Get it on. What's going on?
Yeah!
Go on. What's going on? Auntie, Matt Jones from Ground News. What is occurring?
We're just gonna have a look to see whether there's any thread left in the item that's causing an issue.
Great news, Anthony. Let's find out.
Before they spend any longer trying to get that copper washer in place, my dad and Liam are going to slide up a little camera just to make sure it wasn't the thread that was causing the issue.
Oh! Is it cracked?
Oh, it looks... Oh, is it cracked?
It looks cracked.
No.
Yeah, it is.
It's cracked. Oh, I can see it from here now. Look
Yeah.
at that. It's cracked.
Oh,
It's cracked.
What do you mean?
Oh, I can see
Yeah,
that now.
that's
Looking at
cracked.
that, it's cracked.
Joking.
No.
No.
No. That's not good news, Matt.
It's cracked. The engine block is cracked.
It's cracked. You can
the thread's cracked, isn't it?
Yeah, the thread's cracked, yeah.
Yeah, the actual thread's cracked. Looks like you're ringing Litchfield.
Looks like the engine's coming out. How are we going to fix that?
I don't know what that is. Is that part of the head?
It might be a replaceable part, but Until you get that engine out, you ain't gonna know.
Oh,
But if it's
oh, that's really bad.
thread very bad.
Most of day 5 was just spent undoing all of the work that we've just done. We've now got to get the engine back out so we can access that housing with the cracked thread in it. And work out how we're going to repair it. Right, let's have a look at our culprit.
Oh yeah, me and Liam never actually got
Oh,
it back in.
that's not even part of the engine. That's a separate bit. Look, it bolts on up there. Just here. I reckon if we take this off, we can probably get a better look at it. It looks like that part might actually be a separate piece. And if we can unbolt it from the engine, we've got a chance of either buying a new one or getting it fixed. We're slowly getting to our nemesis, 10 mil. Now we can clearly see the crack in the housing. I don't know how this has happened. Right, at the back of the engine, this is the part we broke, which we actually thought was part of the engine, but turns out, look, there's 2 10 mils on top. We might be able to take this off, buy a new bit, or because we're on this time frame, actually fix it, and we know just the guy who might be able to fix this.
Into the block. I wonder if we could have got to them in the car.
Oh.
Oh, separate. Oh yeah, there we are. There's going to be a gasket in there, isn't there? Oh, look, we could have just bought this bit.
And done it without taking the engine out.
Oh my God. I know just the place to take this to. Let's go there. We're at the machine shop, hopefully. The guy's here. If they can repair the Gallardo, I'm sure they can repair this tiny little crack in here. Bob's gonna absolutely go at it. This is do or die because this engine's got to go back in tomorrow because we're on the dyno the following day and we're back at Santa Pod the following day. So this has got to be revived. Let's go do it. We've already delayed our dyno day. So now it's down to Bob at the machine shop to hopefully recover this part. First off, he puts it in the sandblaster. Then he's going to angle grind the majority of the damage off. It's going to look worse before it gets better.
I think it's best that you don't look at it right now.
Has it got worse?
It's definitely got worse.
Now it's time for Bob to weld it up. This is an aluminium part, so it requires TIG welding, which should be light work for Bob. They did some pretty drastic repairs on my Gallardo, but this weld's got to be perfect. There's going to be a lot of heat going through this.
So all the welding is done.
Yeah.
Massive success. I put a lot of extra material around the outside so it doesn't split open again.
Yeah.
It's clearly a weak point.
Now it's welded up, we've got to machine the top flat. This place could well and truly have saved the day. Anyone could pop in here and pay to use any of the equipment. Or if you're struggling, ask Bob to. Because now he's drilling out a new hole. He's then going to tap a thread into the aluminium and then use a steel helicoil to slide into it. So now it's got steel threads, which are a lot tougher than the aluminium ones. It looks good. There we go. Do you know what I've got to do now? Make sure I cross thread the hell out of it when I put it back in.
Let's do the other one.
Look at that, that's... Oh, that goes in nicely now. But thanks again to Bob at the machine shop because this has been saved. What time is it?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock at night again. And we're doing stuff like this. Massive thanks to Bob at the machine shop. Link is in the description box. Learn how to weld, come here, borrow the tools, do what we did and get last minute fixes.
Pay to play workshop.
That's it. It is a pay to play workshop. Let's get this engine back in. Let's go. The pressure's on now to get this engine back in, see if all our modifications have worked, and get this car on the dyno. If I want to get this 10-second quarter mile, this fitting has got to work. And we won't really know until we get the engine back in, all bolted up and then started again.
Have you got your fingers crossed?
No, I don't need to have them crossed.
You think it's worked?
Yeah.
It's gonna work. Ready? Yeah. Hannah's starting it. If it doesn't work, I don't know what we're gonna do. Moment of truth. Yeah. It's too early to celebrate yet, but so far so good. Let's check underneath. Yes! Hannah! Give it a little rev! And again.
Those blow valves sound sick.
That sounds wicked! It was looking good. The oil was holding out. But I wanted to hear the new exhaust now. Yeah,
I like that.
That sounds really good. That sounds really good. Come on! We made it to Litchfield. The GTR made it to Litchfield, and we're clearly in the right place because there is literally GTRs absolutely everywhere. Although, that might be a bad sign. So we've got loads of things to do. They're going to do health check, wheel alignment, and most importantly, the tune, which is what we need to get this car doing the 10-second quarter mile. How fast we're going to get it after the turbo upgrades and the injector stuff, I don't know, but we're about to find out. Let's get it in the workshop. Finally, we made it. But we're not across the line just yet. Firstly, my GTR is going to go in, and the guys at Litchfield are going to give it a health check. They need to make sure everything that we've done to the car is safe before it goes on the dyno. So far, we're looking good. But we also need to solve why we have that ABS and traction control light on the dash, which I thought was due to a calibration issue. But when the guys tried to calibrate the ABS pump here, they said it wasn't working. There was a problem with the pump. ABS pump has gone on this car, apparently it's quite a common problem. That's why we've got the traction control light and the ABS pump light on. We thought it might need calibrating. Doesn't need calibrating. We need a whole new ABS pump. It's common. £2,300?
£328 plus the VAT.
Plus that. We need it though. There's nothing we can do. Yeah, it looks like we're fitting that, but with this we'll have traction control, we'll have launch control, we'll have ABS, which is pretty important.
You can refurb the original ones, but for quickness today.
Yeah. We're on quarter mile tomorrow, so that one's going on.
So it's got like a Japanese symbol on it. What do you think that means?
It means rip off. £2,300 down, but we need it. The ABS pump is located here, so it's quite accessible. And the guys say they change a lot, and it's a fairly quick job. They've got to loosen off all the brake lines which go to the ABS pump, and then they can remove it. There's nothing special about our new one, other than the fact that it's going to work. We've just got to reinstall it back into place. And after that, the guys will use their Mr. Push, which is going to push brake pressure through the braking system so they can go to each corner of the car and crack off the bleed nipples to bleed the brakes.
Just bleed the system manually.
Yeah.
And now we're going to plug the computer in and do the ABS calibration for the pump.
Perfect.
And hopefully after this calibration, we should have no warning lights. Fixed, no lights, brand new again. Brand new. Right, ABS pump in. Everything coded, calibrated. Next step, because we've had all the engine out and you and my dad did the suspension, we're over onto the four-wheel alignment, get this thing four-wheel aligned, then we're all pointing in a straight line before we can finally get on the dyno. Come on. Health check passed. Now it's important that all four wheels are pointing in a straight line. The guys at Litchfield have got a laser alignment. So they attach this thing to each of the wheels and then it uses a laser to measure the wheel alignment. It's not actually that far out. It just seems to be the back left which is a slightly out of tolerance, which is bound to happen when we've lowered a car and had the subframe off and on multiple times. But with a little adjustment, we're back into tolerance. Which means we should be good for the dyno. We're good? Yeah. This is it. This is the time. This is gonna make or break it. 530 horsepower standard. Yeah, hopefully all the oil stays in the car. This is the moment we've been waiting for. How much power have the modifications added to the GTR?
These parts on the wall, I think these are going to be increased.
It's a graveyard of bits, yeah. That's come off on the dyno. Litchfield have a bunch of spares. Remember when I said you can't buy any internal parts for a gearbox? Well, that's why Litchfield have a load here to strip. Let's hope we don't need any. Time for our first power run. Whoa! Did you see that? We got good flames.
Did you?
Yeah, good flames. 637 brake, so 107 brake horsepower increase.
And flames.
And flames.
I reckon that's low boost. From
You
what I've
reckon?
heard, they can do way more.
You reckon? Well, let's see. 637 definitely won't be enough, so they went again. This time 745. What did he just do? Oh my days! 745! And they went again. And the results are in. 784 horsepower with 627 foot-pounds of torque. 784! Oh my!
That car's rapid.
That's a joke. That is a joke. Will this be enough to do a 10-second quarter mile? Thanks so much, Litchfield, for hosting us and fixing all our problems. Thank you
No
very
problems at all.
I'm hoping we don't have to come back for the wrong reasons, because we might have gone bang, but to Santapod. Santapod Raceway, the home of UK drag racing. This quarter mile track has hosted some insane cars, and now it's about to host my GTR. Here we are back at Santapod, the place we started. To get redemption, we need to get under 11 seconds on this quarter mile. But there is one problem.
We literally haven't ate for like 7 days.
Well, luckily, I brought some Y food, a perfect meal replacement drink. Now this is going to solve one problem, but there is a slight issue with the transmission, and it's to do with the clutches. There's two clutches inside this Nissan GTR, clutch A and clutch B. Clutch A does all the odd number gears, 1, 3 and 5, and clutch B does even number gears, 2, 4 and 6. And apparently the pressure on clutch 2, 4 and 6, clutch B, is losing pressure, and it's not doing so great. That's why we trailered the car here and we haven't drove it since having the car tuned. So I don't even know how this car feels or what it's like. So we are going to take it up the strip just now to see what it's like, but we need to use the launch control sparingly because it definitely needs a new clutch. Which would explain the transmission fault light every time I turn the car back on after a hard drive. And with the new power, I don't think it's going to help it. We were just gonna have a little. We're just gonna have a little go. We're not gonna launch. We're not gonna launch.
Okay.
Something wasn't right. You can hear the clutch slipping here. Oh no! Oh no!
What?
It's not good.
What's happened?
The gearbox is slipping like mad. That was clutch slipping all the way up. Oh no. I think we are really gonna struggle. It was slipping then, I wasn't even full throttle. This might not end well. I think we were slipping straight away. But at least we've been being fueled up for this whole time with Y-food. This is a meal replacement drink. It's not a protein shake, it's not a diet drink. Simply just replaces one meal throughout the day. It's high in fiber, high in protein, it's lactose free, it's gluten free, and there's no added sugar. 34 grams of protein is in one of these, and it replaces one meal throughout the day. So whether you have it for lunch, dinner, breakfast, we're gonna be having it today. And it looks like we're gonna be having it for time being whilst we're changing this clutch, but we're gonna have to try it anyway. But the good thing about Y Food is that there's loads of different flavours to choose from. You can get a taster pack as well and try one yourself if you want to be a little bit more healthy than usual at lunchtime. And it's good for days like this when we're on the go. So if you want to grab a Y Food taster pack, you can do with the link in the description box below. And there's a discount code appearing on the screen right now where you can get a discount on that taster pack and thank me later when you're feeling a lot better for having a Y Food at lunchtime rather than your fast food. Honestly, I've been using Y Food for 4 years now, and this is the best time to try them. You already save 12% when buying a taster pack, but with my discount code, you're going to save an extra 20%. But that's only till Friday the 24th. Now let's see if the GTR is going to hold up.
Do we do the sensible thing and put it back on the trailer and go fix it? Or do we go for a run and see what we can do?
I think we just got to go for it. I think we just go for it. The transmission could leave the chat on the start line. The trans could stay on the start line and we could carry on. But as soon as I pulled off, it was like flashing 4-wheel drive fault, everything.
It still felt pretty like...
Yeah, and then when I was putting my foot down, the revs were going, "Rah!" and we weren't going anywhere. Do we just go for it first time and see what we can get? We can change the maps. Litchfield have told us we can change the maps. We can go low boost, different power. We either can go bring it down, low boost, and do it, or we just go full send, highest boost, launch control, and if it goes, it goes.
Full send. I'm glad we can all agree. Let's do it.
First gear and third gear were fine. Second gear was just slipping like mad.
You can short shift.
Yeah, can't you short shift it into third?
But I thought it was going full send.
Okay, yeah, full send. Yeah.
So we're going to make a decision to go full send.
Why not?
So this is it. The past 7 days have led up to this moment. Anything under 11 seconds is a win.
Come on, GTR.
That's if it works.
Come on. I'm so scared. I'm so scared.
The launch was good. So far, so good.
That was fast. 10.9! Yes! He did it! Oh my God! What did we do it in? What did we do it in? That was so quick. You won't know.
He won't know because the boards come up after he's gone past.
Oh my God.
I can't believe it.
Come on, GTR, what was the time? What was the time? We need to find out.
What time do you think?
Well, the good news is that the clutch was fine.
It got off.
It was fine, and I was just holding on, and this guy's rapid. It felt...
Do you think a 10?
No.
10.59.
Yes! First try!
You can see the tape coming off it.
Like a drug that I just can't deny, giving me the best high.